Okay, right, Daniel. So as we discussed, we are going to use this recorded discussion to look at personal professional development, and through masterclasses and discussions that we've had in session previously, you've been able to make comprehensive notes, and alongside the use of the e-learning resources, we've come up with some comprehensive notes. So we're going to use this discussion to talk through these examples now, if you're happy to move forward with that.
Absolutely, yes, I am.
Okay, amazing. So the first thing that we're going to look at, Daniel, is we're going to talk through your personal development plan that you created, so your PDP. So what went into that, how you did, what you considered in creating it, and what went into that. So let's start with your learning styles.
Thank you, Richard. My learning style gathers a combination of reflector and theorist styles, pretty much the most common combination. As a reflector, I observe and approach the subject from a number of perspectives. This allows me to consider issues arising on site from the most significant point of view, as every possible scenario is precisely checked. Such approach provides an opportunity to make the most appropriate decisions. I often collect the data and analyze the information before making conclusions. I like to consider all potential outcomes before making my final move. As a theorist, I adapt and integrate observation into complex logical theories. I thoroughly consider the issue and try to find a step-by-step reasonable solution. I adapt facts and convert them into coherent concepts. I always try to complete my tasks to the best of my abilities. I tend to do it perfectly and rationally. I try to analyze and synthesize the situations and data. I follow the rule of logic, which says if it's logical, then it's good. I prefer to be detached, analytical, and dedicated to rational objectivity rather than anything subjective or unclear. This is particularly useful while covering site manager's position, as it gives me an opportunity to approach a subject, scrutinize it, and come out with the most efficient answer. I often take a back seat and observe officers working on my site, or I speak with and listening to the guards individually in order to understand the situation. This allows me to stay objective and at the same time to consider opinions and data, as well as appropriately address the issues arising in my workplace.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, really good understanding there, Daniel. So you've not only have we been able to understand and gain knowledge of your own learning style, but in understanding learning styles, you've also been able to understand a little bit more about other people's learning styles and how to recognize that.
Yeah.
So from a training perspective, for example, whether you do toolbox talks, whether it's weekly or monthly training, how you deliver that training, you can now think about your approach and how you might adopt different approaches to different people. So it might be the same training, for example, but you might deliver it differently to one person than you do to another person based on their learning styles. So you can start accommodating a little bit more to that, which is really useful from a team leader perspective, from a manager perspective, because it allows you to accommodate everything and really kind of build relationships and trust. And from a quality and standards perspective, it allows you to really focus on individuals and create learning plans for them and set key performance indicators for them to improve as well. So it's really useful knowledge to have, and you've shown exactly how you've been able to apply that as well, and in thinking about your own development plan as well.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, so the second part of that, Daniel, is in what ways did you take your learning style into account when adding activities to your personal development plan? So we we looked at this, didn't we? We looked at 360 SWOT analysis in some detail. We looked at the self-reflective part of that, self-reflective theories like Kolb, the importance and value of in-depth constructive feedback, and as well as learning styles as well. We also looked at things like Yahari window, different perceptions of yourself, and also how others perceive you as well. And all of these were considered when putting these activities together. Because the other thing with your 360 SWOT analysis, which I found really interesting, Daniel, was particularly with things that on your personal development plan, even the things where you considered yourself to be like a 4, which was already a very strong area of yours, it might then be that, well, actually, even though you're already very good in these areas, these are kind of key elements or key skill sets to have for your job role. So actually, even though you were a 4, there were some things that you thought, actually, I'm going to still cultivate the area of learning, because not only is it important to me, but it will enable me to best serve my team for that as well. Because it was quite a selfless personal development plan in many ways. It's very much centered around how you can help others and how you can improve yourself, to not just ending with your own skill set, but that it will help others with their skill sets as well. So I found that really interesting. So if we could just talk through that, your answer for number 2, Daniel, as well.
Yes, thank you, Richard. I would like to provide the answer for question number 2, basing on the VARC learning style.
Yeah.
I consider the VARC the visual, oral, read, and kinesthetic learning style while preparing my personal development plan. I used VARC as it categorizes learning into 4 major types and allows me to find analogy with employees, as well as identify their development needs.
Yeah.
Thanks to VARC, I'm capable to better understand my workers and assist them in their professional growth by providing them with support in a form of the on-site training, and accordingly direct them to the courses organized by my company. From one side, the workers with visual preferences easily absorb a data provided in a form of maps, diagrams, graphs, arrows. It is often called a graphic style. However, it doesn't include pictures, videos, or information given in a form of PowerPoint. The visual preferences employees favor the information introduced to them on the whiteboard or piece of paper with diagrams or charts that can be accompanied by tables. From the other one, employees with the auditory learning style are mainly focused on the heard or spoken information. They prefer to study during activities such as lectures or discussions. They absorb the knowledge while listening to the radio, audio messages, or data. On my side, the workers with auditory learning style prefer one-to-one meetings or handover, during which all data or guidance is given to them in a verbal form. Further, personnel with reading and writing preferences choose to read and write information. They are individuals that learn thanks to reading or writing the data introduced to them in a form of essays, reports, books, or assignments. Employees on my side learn by receiving information contained in the written handover or a form of written guidance or procedures. The kinesthetic workers, whom prefer to physically learn new information. Some of my employees favor demonstration during the real life situations, when they can be explained the way the procedures should be performed, clients dealt with, or problems approached. They also learn by watching instructive videos during courses organized by the company, in example, General Data Protection Regulations or Health and Safety. Understanding the learning model gives me an opportunity to widen my horizons and what goes after extend my skill set. I'm now capable to introduce and test a number of leadership styles on my site that will adequately assist me with assigning tasks, accordingly addressing issues, or dealing with situations at work. This can provide an opportunity to improve a level of service delivered to the clients as enhancement of communication and professional development significantly influences the efficiency and skill set of the workforce.
Yeah, excellent answer, Daniel. Really, really thorough detail again. Really demonstrating a full knowledge, but also considering what that means to you and what it might mean to your learner, and you're considering how that might affect them as well. That cause and effect element, which is really, really great to see as a not only as a manager but a leader as well. Sometimes people don't always get that the two roles can be exclusive. It's quite a different skill set sometimes between being a manager and being a leader, and the fact that you grasp that and you're able to deliver on both of those elements, and able to provide excellent opportunities for your team is really, really good. So from my perspective, my feedback on that is the emphasis on your understanding of how to remain flexible with your approach, with your needs to the business, but also the needs to individuals as well. So it's really looking at again just being able to adopt different approaches for different people, for different scenarios, even for different timelines as well, because sometimes the way you react or respond to something or deliver a piece of training or information can depend on the amount of time you have available. If it's very urgent, then it might change how you prioritize things, just like we learned through looking at time management and like Eisenhower matrix, things like that, how to think about prioritizing tasks and then delegating and allocating tasks accordingly. But you mentioned there that as a result, you're able to then develop your own leadership styles to very much be subjective to individuals within your team to get the best response and the best out of them, which is really, really good. Interestingly, the next couple of units that we're going to focus on, Daniel, as well, are communication and building relationships, like teamwork, team building, which a lot of this is going to be relevant to that unit of what you've spoken about, like building rapport with people, getting to know the member of staff, not just getting to know the person. So there's a more human element to the approach. So you're getting to know the person, not just the member of staff. So you're able to, motivate them and lead them more effectively because you're learning more about them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that was excellent.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, so the next one has got evaluate 2 learning styles other than your own and discuss what development activities would be most suitable. Now, we've already kind of mentioned, Daniel, that everybody has, in line with the VARC learning styles and also the Honey and Mumford learning styles quiz that we took as well, that to an extent you can have elements of all of them, but generally you'll predominantly favour certain styles over others. And as you've already successfully demonstrated, it's so important to keep that flexibility of approach, and by understanding these different approaches and models, that you can be very subjective to your approach and tailor your approach to situations and for people as well. So even if it's not necessarily styles that you might choose to adopt all the time, if we just talk about certain development activities that would be most suitable here. So if you just talk you through your answer to number 3, Daniel, as well, if possible.
Of course, absolutely. So as I mentioned at the beginning, my learning style is combination of reflector and theorist. Therefore, I'm going to talk about activist and pragmatists learning styles. I will start from the activist. The activist style characterizes with a full bias-free involvement of the individuals and participation in new experiences. Activists are open-minded, not skeptical, enthusiastic regarding new experiences. The credo of activists says that they will try anything once. They act first and consider their actions as well as consequences later. Their days are filled with activities. They prefer to approach the issue by brainstorming. However, once the excitement related to the activity is gone, they start to look for another point of interest. Activists are extroverts, seeking constant contact with other individuals. However, they like to direct the attention as well as majority of activities on themselves. The most suitable development activities for activists would be those allowing them to be involved in the activities containing new problems, solutions, opportunities, and learn from their experience. Activists prefer intense interaction with others. They enjoy business games, competitive teamwork tasks, as well as role-playing exercises. On my side, activists could provide a training for guards, during which they would create certain situational scenarios. They would follow the roles in order to check the response of the guards, send their hypothetical action taken during the test. Such activity allows to confirm knowledge and experience of the security officers and the level of service they are able to provide. Further activity would be related to chairing monthly meetings with the area manager, for instance, or with the clients. During such meetings, activists could lead discussion or presentation. They could also participate in generating ideas without constraints of policy or structure or feasibility related to improvement of the procedures and working conditions on site. Pragmatists. Pragmatism is another learning style, characterizing with trying new ideas, theories, and techniques in order to see whether they are efficient in practice. Pragmatists look for new concepts and intend to experiment with them to confirm their productivity. This learning style allows managers to come back from training courses with new ideas that they would like to implement in practice on site. Pragmatists characterize with quick implementation of the actions that may bring a positive outcome to the operations. They are very practical and down-to-earth individuals that aim to make decisions allowing to solve the issues. The most developing activities for pragmatists would be those with a direct connection between the subject matter and a problem or opportunity on the job. Pragmatists prefer to be shown techniques of dealing with the issues in a practical way. On my side, pragmatists can be particularly efficient during performing the reception training for security officers, where they may participate in answering the calls, looking for the names of the clients in the database, transferring the phone calls. They may also take on a role of the client and allow the new employee to deal with hypothetical issues. This will allow them to practice techniques with coaching feedback from a credible expert In example, someone who is successful and can do techniques themselves.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so you've mentioned a lot there, Daniel, even for content of styles that you might not necessarily use as much as the others, but you'll probably still have to identify with them and sometimes apply them and use them at some points. But again, what I find particularly interesting from that passage would be the fact that you're talking about mentoring and coaching and how you're able to actively or proactively and positively use character traits. So we're not necessarily talking about job roles or job titles here. We're talking about character traits within individuals to undertake certain tasks or certain roles within a team. So you can recognize that certain people will lend themselves better to certain roles, like in this instance, a training role in this situation, which is excellent from a training perspective. You can identify which kind of character traits are going to be best for certain roles, not just skill sets. Then that's a really valuable tool to have. I would suggest in certain situations, because you're talking about building rapport with everybody. You know, if you get a pragmatist with an activist, for example, they might see things in slightly different ways. So aside from skill sets, you can from a coaching or a mentoring perspective, you can get people like that to shadow each other, learn from each other, build relationships, build rapport throughout the team. So even if you've got a lot of different characters, a lot of different personality types within a team, it means that everybody can gel under certain conditions, which will solidify and strengthen the team as a whole. So actually, what we're talking about is really understanding the culture of your business and the working environment that you want to try and create, which is really powerful, which we've covered slightly before in one of your old course, in the team leader course, under culture and strategy, but that's it's very relevant in what we're talking about now as well. And it's really powerful in, as I say, developing rapport, developing relationships, and the fact that you can identify this and not only identify it, but know how to use it positively and proactively within a team setting is brilliant. Because we're talking about team dynamics, and we was in your last course, Daniel, on the team leader, you would have looked at Belbin in team building and all these different roles that you can maybe get in project management. You might not always use all of these roles and characteristics and personalities for all of these roles, but they're all there within a business. We all kind of you probably think of the kind of people that we're talking about off the top of your head, characters and personality wise within the team. And in terms of a team dynamic, it's really interesting how those characters what they can bring to a team, not only from a skill set perspective, but from a personality perspective. And once you understand that, and you almost harness it for the positivity of building team culture, which is really, really good. Okay, the next one, Daniel, is what is your behavioral style? So again, we would have looked at behaviors before. We've looked at kind of personality tests like DISC and things like that. We might have looked at before. So let's have a look at personality style now, number 4.
Thank you, Richard. My behavioral style is a controller style.
Yeah.
Controller style characterizes with strong and decisive result-orientated approach. Controllers provide an adequate, solid, well-descriptive guidance for others. In some situations, they may be perceived as pushy and demanding. They are highly self-critical, task-focused, as well as practical. The advantages of the controller style is a strong will, independent, practical, conclusive, and efficient approach. The most significant disadvantage of the style is being pushy, severe, tough, dominant, and harsh, and possessing a harsh way of being. I can use the controller style in order to conduct training for members of my team. I will keep under my supervision the pace of the work, and I will put attention to the quality of the service provided by security personnel. This will allow me to monitor the deadline of the tasks and control the progress and the process of the works.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, again, Daniel, you've got a really good knowledge of different styles, different behavioural styles, different working styles, and you've got the controller behavioural style. Now, do you think that's more, just out of interest, Daniel, do you think that's more your personality and character, or do you think that's more a style that you have to adopt due to your job title?
I believe it's both, but my personality actually reflects perfectly the description of the controller style.
Yeah.
So reading about the controller style, I could find a lot of analogy to myself. So yes, so in my opinion, that the controller style is the style that I possess, but also the results of the test that I took indicated the behavioral style as the controller's one. So yes, so I found the main points of the I found analogy between the main points of the controller style and between my character features.
Yeah, indeed. And it's interesting how that works out sometimes, Daniel. I always find how people's personalities and characters can be a very good fit or suit certain job roles or job titles. Whereas other times it's people have to cultivate certain styles and cultivate their behaviors for certain job styles because things might not come as naturally to them. Like leaders and managers, for example, is if you had a management style that was very relaxed, like a laissez-faire type style as a leadership, but eventually you know if you're going to continue to work your way up and be a higher manager, you know that kind of style you're not going to be able to adopt all the time. Probably at certain scenarios or with certain people, you're going to have to adapt probably a more autocratic or at least a democratic style of leadership. So it's not going to work all the time. So it's up to people. It's just interesting. I find how certain personalities and characters suit certain job roles and certain lines of work, and how others have to work on it a little bit more. Okay. And the next one, Daniel, is we're just going to expand on that a little bit more. So we've spoken about what your behavioral style is. So the controller's behavioral style, how you identified with a lot of the criteria of that within the test. So we're now going to cover in what ways did you take your behavioral style into account when developing your personal development plan? So we knew about it. I know you did the DISC personality test. And that identified kind of what you were, which was exactly in line with what you thought it was going to be. But in thinking about that, this is what we're going to cover now. You know, to what extent did you consider that by thinking, yeah, that's exactly what I thought, but I still need to work on the others, or did you think, oh, this is exactly where I need to be, so that's kind of fine. I don't need to work on that anymore. So that's what we'll cover in the next question here, number 5. If you could address that for us, Daniel, now.
Yes, of course, Richard. So pretty much I used the DISC analysis, the dominance, inducement, submission, and compliance while preparing my personal development plan. The tool, the DISC tool, gave me an opportunity to recognize my management strengths and weaknesses, as well as their influence on my self-reflection and the impact on members of my team. The assessment allowed me to accurately evaluate my present behavioral style, as well as the needs of myself and my team members. This in result allowed me to improve the dynamic of the employees in my workplace. The disc permitted me to realize my tendencies, preferences, as well as the blind spots in adopting accurate management approaches while dealing with different individuals and circumstances on site. Thanks to this tool, I gained the self-awareness required to appropriately guide the members of my team, particularly during difficult circumstances, such as changing the work location or being stupid to the other company, and implementing new working procedures and security daily habit. So pretty much implementing something new. I became a better skilled, more self-aware role model and a leader capable to accurately delegate tasks on site.
Yeah, excellent, Daniel. So, and that's a really key element of your job, Daniel, as well, because you can't necessarily do everything yourself. You simply haven't got time to do that always. So the allocation of tasks and being able to have that trust in the team, to be able to delegate these things to them, knowing that they're going to do a good job, is really, really important for you to be able to do that, just so you can manage your own time effectively. However, on the flip side of that, the amount of the value in that is the trust that shows that you have in your employees to do that and do and do a good job is going to be really critical in being able for them to build on their own performance and learn themselves as well. So you often find that with managers. I used to do that myself, Daniel. I was a manager when I first went into a new team, where it was kind of like, I don't quite know your skill sets yet, or I'm still building relationships and building trust with you. And so until I know what you're capable of, I'm going to take it all upon myself and try and get everything done myself. And after a while, after you find you're working more hours and hours, and you literally can't get everything done. You can't continue or sustainably continue to take everything on yourself. You realize the importance of how it's important to be able to train people and develop people for your own benefit, not just of their benefit as well. It sounds really selfish, but you can't always do everything yourself. So that was definitely one thing that I learned from my old job and coming into this job, having the confidence to be able to delegate and allocate tasks to other people, for sure. Okay, that's the first half of the discussion, Daniel. So I think that was all about personal development planning. We've looked at other bits as well, particularly emotional intelligence, things like empathy. What is emotional intelligence? Like reading a room, understanding how to react to certain things and certain people, with understanding what you're like as a person. So this is what we're going to look at next. Daniel. So we're going to reflect on the impact that your working style and your emotional intelligence level has on others. And you were able to give an example here as well. So if we start off with what is your working style, and then we'll move on to number two with how emotionally intelligent do you think you are, Daniel? So we'll start off with number one.
Of course, Richard. My working style is closely associated with the attributes such as attention to details, organization, planning, as well as forming and following a logical order. I can perform my duties in a clear and detail-oriented fashion. This is especially visible when I assign tasks to other employees, as I have a tendency to provide them with meticulous descripted guidance. When I am assigned a project, I am capable to easily establish correct order and structure plans. that comply with the firm timeline in appropriate precision and accuracy. This was particularly visible when I was assigned a position of sustainability champion on my side. I led a change in my company in order to transform the site into a more sustainable, aware place. I prepared a plan and step by step started to implement its points. I talked with the clients with an attention to find their attitude and spectrum of the changes. I made the workers aware regarding my expectations related to decreasing the electricity consumptions on site. All my actions were recorded in both electronic and hard copy form. At the end of the process, I presented my results to the area manager, to the account manager during the presentation on site.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the next part, Daniel. So, how emotionally intelligent do you think we are? So, we looked at Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence. So, what it is, different scenarios, different situations. We looked at scenarios like showing empathy with people, being able to read a room, read situations, and using that self-reflection and self-analysis of knowing what you're like as a person to be able to react and deal with certain situations and certain with people. And if you can't, how you might escalate that as well. So let's have a look at that now with number 2, Daniel.
Of course, I possess an average emotional intelligence. Over a period of my studies and employment, I realized that I'm good at interpreting, understanding, and acting upon emotions. I'm capable to express my feelings and deal with emotional, sensitive situations in either personal or professional life. I possess a solid emotional skills. However, there are situations in which I may find myself feeling overwhelmed. This may be particularly visible during conflictual or emotionally charged arguments between the employees. This is when I always attempt to use empathy and conflict management skills such as communication, active listening, open discussion, patience, or positivity in order to resolve disagreements before they will escalate.
Yeah.
The average skills in interpreting and controlling the emotions encourage me to enhance my knowledge of on the field of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, excellent, Daniel. So that's a really good example of that you're able to identify in your understanding of emotional intelligence and how it benefits you in positive ways, but also you've identified areas in which you still find quite challenging, and using different techniques like active listening, collaboration techniques as well, conflict management, open discussion, and patience and positivity to resolve disagreements before they escalate. Hopefully, you don't have to deal with too many situations like that, Daniel. But if you get a team that are kind of working 12 hours a day with people, it's sometimes you're spending a lot of time with people, and again, as we spoke about before, different characters, different personalities. Sometimes you find yourselves in those situations. So being able to be prepped and understand that that might happen at some point, and being able to recognize the tools of being able to overcome that is really, really useful as well. And again, we touch upon the difference between a leader and a manager, Daniel, as well. So that's when you can combine the two. I'm not only setting an example, but you really take charge of certain situations. But then once you're in that, kind of change tact and be a bit more democratic and show exactly what to do with leadership skills, then it's a really powerful tool with things like conflict management. I always think. Okay, so having looked at that, Daniel, so how do both your working style and your emotional intelligence affect your performance. So with all that knowledge of what you've got, how do you think it affects your performance?
Richard, performance in my workplace can be affected by factors such as emotional intelligence or working style of employees and the management. The emotional intelligence allows to identify and understand people's emotions. This, in return, provides an opportunity of making appropriate decisions that will solve problems and allow to appropriately communicate with others while dealing with the situations at work.
Yeah.
My average emotional intelligence allows me to accurately interpret, understand, and act upon emotions of my coworkers. I am capable to motivate my staff by encouraging them, sharing the vision, and setting clear goals. I also make sure that there is a healthy office environment on my side, as I condemn sharing gossips, verbally insulting or attacking others.
Yeah.
I provide a feedback as well as a reward for my team members and inform them about opportunities to develop. I encourage the officers to participate in the courses organized by the company, and I assign them with the courses based on their knowledge and needs. This gives me an opportunity to work towards completion of the company goals. By recognizing the emotions of my team members, I can step in during the conflict and dissolve it by providing them with relevant guidance and advice. I can improve the connections between my coworkers by assigning them with the tasks, thanks to which they can start to cooperate with each other and improve their relationship. During the period of change, such as Elia mentioned TUP to other company, I provide the workers with relevant information and assurance, so needed during such an unsettled period. I can recognize which one of them requires more attention, encouragement, or advice. Thanks to this, the employees can respond to changes much quicker and with a smaller dose of stress. I will use my empathy in order to understand their career aspirations and accurately fit the training into their site development program. This in return can allow them to progress with the career development. Working style can be perceived as a correlation between individuals' personality and performance at work.
Yeah.
Knowledge related to the aspect of working style allows me to understand workers' personality and behavior by considering aspects such as temperament, competitiveness, adherence to rule, and social behavior. Adequate estimation of the working styles allows me to predict performance of the employees and their results at work. It also allows to appropriately assign them tasks as well as choose co-workers to cooperate with. Employees with logical working style possess a power to analyze an issue and approach it with concentration and data-oriented attitude. When it comes to dealing with the clients and tasks assigned to our team, I'm a result-driven individual. I always evaluate effectiveness of the procedures based on tangible, measurable achievements of my team members. I prefer to work quickly and efficiently and complete the tasks without delays. I have the same expectations towards my team members. If there are checks that need to be conducted by them over the weekend, I make sure that they don't leave the tasks for the last moment. If there is a room for improvement, I always inform my employees about the feedback by providing them with the feedback related to their work. Detail-oriented and supportive working styles allow me to rarely make mistakes, and provide me with a high reliability work with a good results and feedback from the client. I always use appropriate processes in order to organize my workflow. This, in fact, slows my productivity. However, I am capable to provide a work free from errors. I'm supporting towards my coworkers, and I'm always willing to step in order to provide help. I'm patient and considerate. I enjoyed making my clients welcomed and happy with the service provided during their experience received on my site. The idea-oriented approach allows me to implement new methods in running the site or performing manager's duties. I help to come up with it helps to come up with solutions that will satisfy the clients, and in case of the issues arising on site, such as lateness of the employees or overbooking holidays, I am capable to find a way of filling the gaps by adjusting the employee schedules.
Yeah. Daniel, excellent answer. Again, really in depth, really detail orientated. You're using excellent example, real job role examples here as well. So just from my notes, so again, we've got down what you're describing in terms of coaching and role modeling. Is different forms of coaching models like Grow and Cigar that we've touched upon before, and how you utilize those, and you're able to identify kind of key performance indicators to work with on staff for them to then create their own personal development plans and meetings and communicate that effectively. You're also demonstrating from a performance perspective that you're able to, as a result of having this knowledge, you're able to plan, support, monitor, and review all of your team's progress all of the time. And with the value of feedback, both from staff and from your clients and customers, you talk about the value of feedback on your performance, of how you're able to identify different factors, not just from a personal perspective, or maybe an individual perspective from guys where you might have one-to-ones or performance reviews with them, but you're talking about external stakeholders or customers or client feedback as well. So what's their view of it? So you might think that you're doing a good job, or your team's doing a good job in this area or this area, but you're also getting client perspective as well and feedback on that. And you're keeping that in mind of how ultimately a lot of the time, Daniel, you'll know as long as your customer is happy, then your managers at Bidvest are going to be happy as well. Because otherwise that's going to cause issues. So you might be running your practices exactly in line with policy and processes for the company, but if they might not work for the client, then that's potentially going to cause issues. And by simply just adhering to them, even though you're doing your job, you might have to liaise with the client a little bit more to find out, how do you want us to operate, and they might have to be flexible with how you need to operate as well, in line with policy and regulations and legislation as well. So I think the fact that you identify the key element of feedback, not only from a staff perspective, but also from a customer perspective, is really, really valuable in managing your own performance and your team's performance as well. So that was excellent. You also talk about role modeling, always being professional. So you're always setting a fair, consistent, impartial example for everybody, which I think we will come on to a little bit later on in the drop down. But that was a really good answer, Daniel.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, so the last one is more to do with your organisation, looking at values, and again we'll then move on to examples of when you've been open and honest, fair, consistent, and impartial. So we'll start off with your organisation's values, Daniel. So we'll talk about what Bidvest's values are, what they mean to you, and how you demonstrate them within your job role, through work ethic or through behaviour, and how you try to be a role model in line with those values. So if we could just talk through that as well.
Of course. I will start by talking about the organizational values. which can be described as a set of fundamental beliefs held by the company. The principles act as a direct guidance, providing the firm with purpose and direction regarding interaction with its clients, workers, as well as other stakeholders. The values need to be unique and authentic in order to suit their purpose and provide a clear guidance to the employees regarding the actions and decisions making. My company values are as follows: people first, the basics, earn trust, adaptive and agile, social values, as well as imagination and be a better role model. I strictly follow them while performing my duties. The people first relates to the workers and their significance in the strength of the company. I respect, protect, and prioritize the well-being of my staff and always attempt to put their needs on the pedestal. The basics are significant as they allow to keep performance of the workers constantly on the high level expected by the company and the clients. Trust is a feeling of confidence and security, and therefore the greatest compliment that our workers can endow their employer. Adaptive and agile motivates us to improve our service and exceed the needs of our customers. This value is important as it allows us to plan, respond, and perform at agreed pace. The social value gives an opportunity to realize duty of care towards our planet. This encourages businesses to comply with sustainability that adds value to the society. Finally, being a better role model motivates the management to provide the highest level of service each day. I realize that employees, customers, and vendors are watching every move of the person in charge in order to learn from our behavior, as well as get an assurance that management position has been assigned to appropriate individual. This value is the most significant as it allows to understand that being an effective role model requires demonstration exemplary characteristics each day.
Yeah, absolutely right, Daniel. So again, we emphasize again more on the fact that you're taking a really well-rounded approach to gathering feedback and considering your own performance and that of your team, which is great, not only from an internal perspective from you, from your line manager, but also from each other. And you're also utilizing that of the kind of the needs analysis and the expectations set by Bidvest as a business, as a company, and matching those values against the expectation from the client and the customer to really shape kind of employees' skill sets of what's required. And again, that once that's done, you can then set KPIs, support staff as necessary, set them goals and targets, both individually and as a team, and you're able to monitor that with regular meetings, conversations, management meetings, and then review that. You know, what's gone well, why has it gone well, how can we use this for other employees and in future practice, or if we need to change anything, why do we need to change it, or how would we do it differently, etc. So everything's evaluated all the time, and I think evaluation is really, really key for processes and policies. Not only when it's maybe not going as well, or you find yourself in a really challenging situation, but also when things are going right as well. You can learn a lot from when things are going right, because you can then apply that in other situations as well. Particularly when considering like management change theories. Like previously, we looked at like Kotter's 8-step process as a management change theory within your last course, Daniel. Things like that will be included with that. Okay, just to finish with, Daniel, if we could go through examples of when you've been open and honest, fair, consistent, and impartial.
Of course. I was open and honest during difficult conversation conducted with one of my team members when I reflected on his general performance at work that was reported as being below the client's level of standards. In a subtle way, the worker was once again explained the procedures as well as expectations regarding dealing with the staff queries, greeting the visitors, and providing a general customer service. I always familiarize myself with statements made by both parties before making attempt or coming out with conclusion or solution.
Yeah.
In this case, I also listen to the client as well as the worker first in order to remain biased and make accurate judgment related to situations arriving on site. Fair. I was fair during providing the witness statement for members of my team participating in the customer service course. I fairly recorded the observations made on my team members describing their activities and considering the assessment criteria. I also provided relevant reference to the level of performance of my co-workers regarding their general work attitude as well as their results. In case of the training need, I gave the time opportunity to participate in the courses organized by the company to each member of staff. All security guards working on my site were referred to customer service level 2 course commencing in 2021. Consistent. I'm consistent during conducting performance review with my coworkers. I'm fair and accurate regarding the level of service they provide, their training needs, as well as prospects of development on their current site or general security field. I take under the consideration the aspects such as clients' feedback, general attitude, as well as results from their day-to-day duties. I try to be an effective role model in my approach towards the work as well as the employees. I'm hard worker accountable for my actions, respectful towards others, persistent with a high dose of integrity. I believe this benefits as well as myself as my team members and the organization as a whole.
Yeah.
Impartial. I'm impartial during the one-to-one feedback when I provide objective opinion related to work performed by my coworkers. I'm always focused on the employee's compliance with the company values and policies, such as integrity, honesty, fairness, accountability, or teamwork.
Yeah. Excellent. Daniel, that is a really thorough piece of work. It maps in against all of the criteria that we need. Not only that, but it's going to lend itself really favorably to the next couple of units on team building, leading people, and communication as well. So we can use a lot of the same examples for those units, Daniel, as well, I'll suggest. But in terms of what we need here, we'll keep the session going. But in terms of what we need for the recording, I'm just going to pause that now because that's everything we need.
Of course.